All right, we're live, brother.
All right, okay, that's good. I think we're good to go. Yeah, so we discussed last time about the problem facing there. First of all, what do you think about this Black Panther movie? What do you think about it?
I got a chance to view some of it
Okay.
by unscrupulous means, but I thought it was a good movie. I see what all the hype was about. I realized that our people needed something like this. People were tired of seeing black people as slaves, as thugs, as some corrupt warlord in Central Africa somewhere, some crazy witch doctor. You know what I mean? So we needed this movie because, African people have told stories through myth for hundreds of thousands of years. We made up fanciful stories and whatnot. We were master storytellers. And this is a good movie for people who wanted to see Africa as, people need to reimagine Africa again. And we needed this, especially for young people who probably would not learn through means of a book, of me just talking. Wakanda is not a real place, but the issues are the same. In terms of maybe how it was formed because of colonialism, and the people started to close off the borders and all of this. So I thought Black Panther was a good movie. There's a lot of hidden messages in it. So you'll have to watch the movie a few times to really pick up some of the messages. And this is why I think it's caused so much debate across the world. I saw a link recently about museum people who now are saying we have to discuss Black Panther because I think in the start of the movie there was a scene where Killmonger,
Yes,
he was at a museum and he was viewing and he was asking the museum lady, a white woman, so where's this from and where's that from? And she's giving him the whole answers. Oh, this is from Benin and this is from here. And he's telling her, no, this is not from here. This is from, Wakanda. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like blowing him off. No, you don't know what you're talking about. So the article was really saying we really have to get people of these countries to tell their own stories because white people sometimes do a disservice to these things because white people will give an answer based on what the history book tells them to say.
yeah,
But a person from the area could probably give you
more.
But it's
You
a hell
know,
of a movie.
I've never seen this enthusiasm. I've never seen, this ordinary movie. There are different ways you can educate the large population of the people. You can educate them through classroom, through schools.
Sure.
But the easiest way to get people educated is through media, movies. I've never seen African American so happy, so proud of their heritage, so proud of their origin. They're talking about Africa, they dress like Africans. I've never seen such enthusiasm. Usually they don't want to have anything that can associate them with Africa. When they talk of Africa, place of disease and all those things. But everyone is so people don't really understand the social implication of such movies. They undermine such things. I've seen people so happy somewhere, and some people that have so bad notion of Africa now are getting to it, even though it's just a fictional movie, but it speaks volume. So what do you think about the costume? How do you see the costume? These are real.
Man, it was, the thing is, everything was based off of real African dress, real African culture. It was wonderful because people got to see Africans not as what maybe a Eurocentric history book wants to tell you. Africans were just running around in nothing sometimes. Africans have rich culture and they have rich clothing and good textiles and all this. So all the clothing, all the costume, the lady that was leading the costume creation, she said these are all based off of real clothing from African cultures. This is not strange. It's not strange. So it was beautiful, man.
I was proud. I heard him speaking Hausa because I speak Hausa myself. I speak Hausa and I was trying to learn Xhosa. It's a click sound language. It's really, when you hear them speaking it, You understand, like I don't know, it sounds like melody.
Right, exactly.
So, and then it's a language that you can use to, fascinate the world, because there's no any type of language in the world where you can find that click sound. We have the German, we have the Russians, the Chinese, but when a Chinese might hear you speaking that language with click sound, they'll be like, how did they even came up with that idea of that click
Exactly.
sound?
One of the what I like about the use of language and real indigenous languages is that a lot of times you find they start to speak in this, I guess, African speaking in English, so it has this sort of accent to it, but they
Yes.
actually use a real language.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they did, because maybe young people here especially will want to learn an African language. Everybody wants to learn Spanish and French and these things, but I think the late great Hugh Masekela, he had an interview, and it's on social media. He speaks about how continental African young people don't even know their own languages. They don't know their own language, but they know English, they know French, they know these, and they're proud. They speak Portuguese, and they're proud of that, but they don't know their own language.
They don't.
That's crazy to me, right? It's like, why would you want to learn this language spoken by a minority of the people, and you have your own speaking by millions of people? I don't understand. I don't understand.
It's a very crazy experience, because I don't see foreigners. I don't see them, very enthusiastic about learning African languages. I've never seen that. And most of the times when Africans, we see somebody that speaks our language, we get so happy, so excited. So you have a situation where Christians, African Christians, like, because they are Christians, they try to adopt foreign names. Like, I'm speaking to you right now, we're speaking in English.
Right.
Of course, and my name is Innocent and you are Gregg.
Gregg, right.
Okay, so Gregg is probably, if you find French people that bear such name, you'll find English people that bear such name. But what people don't actually understand is that your name actually speaks volume of you. Your name speaks of where you come from. It speaks about your history. For instance, if I meet you now and ask you, okay, let's say I see a Chinese man, then I say, hello, good morning, what's your name? Then probably he replied and said, oh, my name is Olatunde. Olatunde is a Yoruba name in Nigeria. So if he says his name is Olatunde, I'll be like, like, are you really, your name is Olatunde? Then that's where questions start coming up to understand how he come to be called Olatunde. So it's normal if you tell me that his name is Deng Xiaoping, or you tell me his name is Mao Shantung, that would be very okay, because those are Chinese names, so that would be very okay. But to the Africans, they don't really understand the implication of adopting foreign names. First of all, because they have accepted this foreign religion, then my name is Innocent, or my name is Gregg, then I just accepted to be called. But you don't, in short, I give you an example of a lady called Julie. Then this Julie, you don't know if she's African or she's a European, because the name, of course, is from European origin. But you don't actually know that this Julie is a black woman from Africa, from somewhere in Congo. So, but here is she. But if they tell you that her name is, let's say maybe you hear of the name Mombasa. Mombasa certainly is not the European name. You will know that, yes, there is a history, there's a location behind some of these names. So people don't really understand the cultural implication, the psychological, the social implication of some of these things that we do. That we accepted foreign religion because we were colonized. You will never hear a Chinese man bearing a French name.
Never.
Maybe in rare cases, but a Frenchman will not be very excited to adopt Chinese name. Like, you see a Frenchman, you say bonjour, tout t'appelle comment, then you start telling je m'appelle Piang Piang or Ping Pong or whatever they call themselves, So it's really, people don't really understand the psychology behind adopting foreign names and because it's like there is a cultural cutoff when you adopt some of these names. So it's really interesting to see that, okay, we speak our language. Of course, it's okay you speak other languages. It's also cool that you learn your own language. Why? Because me, when I started speaking French, it helped me to understand the psychology behind the French language. I'm proud that I'm a polyglot, that I speak multiple languages, and I'm proud to learn all this, but that doesn't mean that I should despise my own native language.
Sure.
But that's what the case most Africans don't know. They did, let's be progressive. Progressist in French, they call them progressive. So they want to go on, And they think like instead of Christianity is Eurocentrism. They want to progress, they want to learn new stuff, they want to eat food, they want to eat European food, and now they abandon their language, they abandon their names, they abandon almost their style of dressing, everything like that. Meanwhile, the European is actually fascinated by your own culture. To what happened today? There's this philosopher, he's called Michel Onfray. He's a French philosopher, very young, vibrant philosopher. I was listening to him. He was talking about African art. He said something that I was shocked. I said, this is what a woman, an African woman, stood up to challenge him that she's a Christian. She said, oh, I'm a Christian and I don't totally agree with what you're saying, because he's an atheist. So he was speaking against Christianity. And I'm an African, this and this. So he stood up and answered. I said, oh, poor woman. You see, I love Africa. I'm telling you that most of our grand artists were inspired by African art. He was talking about Picasso. He was naming some of their grand artists that they were inspired purely by African art. I was like, wow, look at this foreigner. He's not even an African, but he knows the value of our culture. He knows the value of our distance. Meanwhile, Africans in Africa are born in some of the artifacts. They are born in some of those things. He made a statement. He said, all those artifacts in Africa, he said, the more you leave one of the artifacts to deteriorate, to get spoiled, to get rotten, that is a huge chunk of library burning. I was like, a foreigner, a Frenchman, a white man saying such a thing, but Africans, we don't see that. So it's really crazy. So it's really interesting, when I met you, we started talking on Facebook. I see your advancement, your exposure to history. I'm always excited to meet people like that. I'm always excited to meet people, that are woke. That's what the world would like to use. It's really, really interesting. So can you share with us your background? What happened to you, your childhood, where you're born? What country here is speaking from?
No, I'm from a country called St. Kitts and Nevis. It is it's a two-island federation in the Caribbean. We are known as the smallest independent nation in this part of the world. It was actually the first place that the English colonized, and then the French 2 years after them. My island especially was split into a 68 square mile island was split into between French and English. Nevis was a British territory, and this is one of the first places that African people were brought. I'm from a country that was heavily colonized, but just to speed up history a bit, I essentially, of course, I descend from enslaved people who came here, brought here. And I guess growing up, you sort of just accept what is. You learn your history from sometimes your parents, and then you go into school and you learn the school history. However, our school system, even though it is Caribbean based, is also a offshoot of English curriculum. So your history is only goes to a certain point. Africans, your history usually starts from when you're on a ship coming here, in the bottom of a ship coming here, you came here and you were a slave, and then your history starts here, because that's quote unquote the story of the African in the Caribbean as far as the school system is concerned. And then you learn about, of course, emancipation, and you go onwards. The issue comes for me when I was always interested in mythology, always. However, my exposure to mythology was always European mythology. I knew a lot about Greek mythology, Roman mythology, because that's what would be on TV. That's what would be in books that were accessible to you. There was no library here that was available to somebody my age, a young man, a young teenager, preteen teenager, with anything African. Nothing. You understand? I ended up learning about these things more when I got the internet. And you get bits and pieces. However, all things African here were almost taboo, right? You talk about Africa, that's devilish, the culture is devilish. Africans on TV were shown as starving. It was always some war somewhere in Africa. You know, so we got the worst impression of Africa. Everything was just bad. They never showed nothing good about Africa on TV here, right? So that's what you were brought up with. And when you wanted to disrespect somebody, say, oh, you know, you're just like some African. You're black, and you're telling somebody else as a disrespect, you know, something of the African, you know, whatever. You know, these are the things that is in your head, right? This is what's passed down to you from being enslaved, because when they brought slaves here, when they brought Africans here and then enslaved them,
yes,
you have to make a slave, you have to take everything from that person. They can't use the language, can't speak your language, it's illegal. You don't have your foods, you can't play your music, you can't congregate together. And after you start breeding a society, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, after a while, the descendants of these people know nothing of Africa, because the grandparents might have fought it, and they might have spoke some level of, you know, of the language still. But hundreds of years after, you have a slave society that all they know is here. They don't know how to speak the language. They can cook certain foods because it was passed down, and certain foods came over with the ships.
yeah,
And that was what Africans would cook. So there's certain things that we cook now that are reminiscent of what you find on mainland Africa. It's all across the Caribbean, Central and South America. And you end up eating foods, of course, but you don't know what it is. You're just eating it because your mother made it, your grandmother made it, so you eat it. And I remember I was about 20-something years old. I'm going to skip a lot of things. And I was speaking to my dad one time, and well, he heard me speaking to somebody else about Haiti, because it was the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution. This was, I was 20-something, like very early 20s. And he heard me say something like, oh, you know, those Haitians made a deal with the devil to get the freedom. And after I was done, he called me, he said, why you say that? I just parroted why, you know, I just told him what I said. So he says, you know, you can't allow Europeans to tell you about African history. You can't see history through a Eurocentric mind. You are not a European, you're an African man. And so he started breaking it down to me. And he told me, you know, what the European was good at was marketing and propaganda. He has convinced the world that what the Haitians did, the Africans in Haiti did, was somehow wrong when they decided, I am not going to follow this Christianity no more. I am going to call upon my native deities to assist me. And I am going to fight for myself and get my freedom. Right? And it got me thinking, he says, how is it devilish that the Africans can say, I don't want to be enslaved anymore, I'm going to fight for it. But it wasn't devilish when the Christians had them enslaved for like 200 years. That was fine. You know what I mean? So he just got me thinking. And then, of course, you go and bit by bit, you have to go and you have to read, go online and read these things. But again, what white supremacy does and colonization does, it leaves triggers in your mind. So every time you find something, there's a trigger that comes up and you don't even know it's there. And it starts fighting back what you're learning. So now I'm learning about African deities, right? And I'm learning that, you know, maybe it's not evil. But then the trigger comes and it's like, no, that's devilish. These people are evil. You know, the gods are you know, they want human sacrifice and these things, right?
Yes.
You start fighting it back. Then you start researching Christianity itself, and you realize, okay, this maybe comes from African culture itself. And then you realize that a lot of this that we got was essentially remixed information that they got, went around the world, comes back down the west coast of Africa, back to us. So you start reading more and you start asking questions, but for me, there was nobody to ask.
Yes.
I had nobody to ask because around here, the only people that were talking Africa were Rastafarians. right? But they only talk Ethiopia.
Exactly. That's
No, we don't come from Ethiopia,
mm.
right? You know, Rastafarians. And, you know, I want to big up the Rastafarians because, trust me, if it wasn't for those brothers, the memory of Africa would be long dead in the Caribbean. Even though they speak about Ethiopia, they always maintain we have to go back to Africa, we have to link back up with Africa. The Ethiopia thing comes in because these fellows were, you know, it
Marcus
was
Garvey. Oh, Haile Selassie.
Haile Selassie. So, you know, it's a religious thing and all of that, but they always maintain links with Africa. So I have to pick them up. But I can't learn from them because I don't want to now approach my studies from a religious standpoint, because I realize now religion ends up spoiling everything.
Everything, that's true.
It spoils everything. It spoils your studies, it spoils everything. So just, you know, to my 20s, you know, just reading and, you know, getting bits of information where I could. Sometimes I might get some information, then I have to go and read about that and realize that's not accurate. Then I had to farm my own way to understand that, you know, our people here had to make some tough decisions. You had people here who didn't want to have kids with another black person because your black skin, you know, a color like yours, for instance, would be a hindrance, right? So, you know, there was a story in my family where a grandmother of mine had decided she will not have a child with a black man.
Mm.
And that's how this came. You understand? That's how my color came, because it came from illegitimate children of a certain white man that was here. Because she figured it was better that she have a child with a white man because it would be a hindrance. And many people had to make that choice across North America, the Caribbean, because black skin was seen as a hindrance. Anything black was seen as a hindrance. And you had to read about those things and understand the things the people had to go through, had to do so they could eat, you know. And, you know, you realize that, you know, our people were not just here accepting it. We were revolutionaries. We fought these people. You know, we found different ways to resist these people. And I guess sometimes the reason why people don't read history about slavery, about Africa, is because sometimes it comes from pain. You're not proud of yourself. And you want to make up stories about yourself, that your children are Abraham. You know, you want to make up some story, know that you're indigenous to this part of the world. You are always here. None of those things are true. But when you realize that your people went through all of that, survived and thrived, it comes with pride. So that's where my thing comes from. I had to stop looking at history from a religious aspect. I had to completely stop with the Bible. I had to stop.
At what age did you stop that? At what did you come to the realization?
Man, I was again in my 20s, because all in my teens, I mean, you're going to church and you accept these things, that Hebrews were in Egypt and it was an Exodus and all this nonsense, and you had to sing these church hymns about Father Abraham has many sons and I am one of them and so are you. You had to sing these songs. There was another song in church that you sung, oh, wash me till I'm white as snow. You know what I mean? These are mental conditioning tools that the European use on us. But we didn't know. We just singing the songs and thinking whatever, but it's conditioning us, right? So you have to stop.
Amazing grace, how sweet the
song.
The same.
A wretch like me.
Anytime I remember those songs, you don't know how free I feel right now. Like I feel this liberation, this freedom, just understanding my because it's fascinating to see someone like you from the other side of the ocean having this nostalgia about Africa, but the very Africa living in the continent are unable to see this. I made a post recently, actually on Facebook, about why Bill Gates is interested in population and all those things. And I was also watching the comment that people were leaving. I was trying to see how aware of the danger of the things that is behind. He poses himself as somebody who is worried about the world population, But in reality, there's something bigger than that most people don't know. There's something behind that he is afraid. Of course, the world population is a threat, of course, to humanity. We need to control it. But I noticed that these people, they have certain hidden agenda. A lot of people, if they can place their hand on any weapon to wipe the entire black population, they will do that.
But notice, as I said, and I say in post, notice the people who are always concerned with world population are the Europeans.
Yes, exactly.
The European is the minority in the world. Look at the narrative of white supremacy in Europe. They always talk about their numbers and how we're going to save the white race. White people have made it well, first off, in history, there was never a lot of Europeans. Never. They've always been a minority in the world. The world, your color, maybe my color, this is Earth standard. Dark brown to light brown. You understand? This is standard. Anything other than this is a mutation. You understand?
That's true.
So Europeans have always been the minority. Wherever they go, however, because they have been so savage, they have projected themselves as the majority. They've projected their power. They have an issue now because they also made decisions to have low birth rates. During the Industrial Revolution, they didn't have big families. You know, they had rough times, however. But when you come from a country that is in the tropics, you don't really have issues with food. So your family is big. You don't have these issues. You don't have issues with land. You don't have issues with food. You don't have none of these issues. However, the European always looks to Africa when they talk about the world population.
Yep.
But Africa has the most land in the world. But they still want to control the Africans' numbers because they realize the more Africans start coming into Europe, it threatens them.
Yes.
Right? It threatens them. So when I see Africans agreeing with people like Bill Gates, I'm like, are you serious? There's a reason why I think Prince William, is that his name? The guy, whatever, the guy who's supposed to take over the throne after his father, whatever, look, in England. So he says he made some speech about world population threatening flora and fauna. And the first place he spoke of was Africa. and I was like, what's it to you? Why are you so interested? Why are you so interested? You know what I mean? I mean, I saw people talking about how the world's resources are under threat and Africa has so much people. Here's the difference. Africa has a lot of people, but I guarantee you they are not using most of the resources.
They are not, never.
Exactly.
Africa is as big as you can put China inside Africa. You can
Exactly.
put the entire Europe inside Africa.
However,
you can put India inside Africa.
Exactly. It's the European, the Asian, those people putting pressures on the world's resources, not Africans.
That's true.
You understand? You have to look behind these people's words. This is why I worry when I have Africans who come here as med students, very intelligent people, but they're so historically, what should I say? Historically poor. Yeah. They don't understand that, yes, you're a med student, but it is dangerous when you're not historically grounded because people will continue playing these tricks on you because you don't know who they are. You just see them as, oh, he's a nice guy. He's spending all his money and all of this, and he's talking about real issues. Yes, on the face of it, population control is important.
Yeah.
But that's on the face of it. You have to look behind that now. What's he really talking about? And you will only be able to look behind that if you're historically grounded. Understand? So just to finish my point, I became, I guess, conscious over time because I had to diffuse a lot of white supremacist ideology in my head. Africa was not a dark continent with people who were primitive. African culture is not primitive. You understand? Yes. White people were not the originators of humanity and of culture. You understand? Those are things that white supremacy puts in your head because now you have to fight back those things.
Yeah.
So I became interested in my own people over time. It takes time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fascinating to see that the entire thing will happen in such a way that we, let's say, like the relationship between the Jamaicans and the Ethiopians is really, really fascinating, because I kept watching how this Haile Selassie is somebody I respect a lot, because he built the modern day Ethiopia, the Ethiopian now, after taking over from his father. He was a great planner. He planned their air system now, their plane system that is very, very active till date. He came up with that idea. So it's really, really interesting to see how he came up with some of those ideas. So I don't know the spiritual relationship he established with the Jamaicans, which is really, really fascinating to see how they yearn to be related to. They even see him as a god. Like
Well,
that.
it's two things. Um, Marcus Garvey and a gentleman called Leonard Howell. And these gentlemen also spoke very quote unquote prophetic things, but they're also using the Bible. And Marcus Garvey also spoke about a black king to come. And the Bible also spoke about the Messiah to come. And at that time, Ethiopia's victory over Italy, was very significant. Ethiopia was now colonized, so it lined up with a lot of things. It lined up that, look, I mean, this is the Black King, this is the Messiah. You have to look to Ethiopia. Ethiopia is mentioned multiple times in the Bible. Jamaica, of course, was again heavily colonized by the British, and they had access to the Bible. But and that's how essentially Haile Selassie became, and the Ethiopic royalty became this pseudo religious entity.
Briefly after the war, they did. He was overthrown. He
Yeah.
was overthrown easily, because immediately after, I think they told there was a conspiracy that was set against him, because how could this African country that was never colonized be so strong and set up an army against Mussolini? And they fought him. They stood their ground, make sure that he doesn't even try to dominate them. So the whole thing, it's really, it's something really, really deep. I tried to reckon about. Then I just watched back again, and I saw something. I saw this phenomena about Africans, blacks everywhere. You talk about skin color and all these things, and the population and the fear. There was that. Do you know anything about the crest theory?
I didn't hear that. Was that?
You know anything about the crest theory?
No.
The crest theory is CRESS. Crest theory is Francis. I think Francis Cress was it? It's a woman, an American woman.
Right. Cress Wilson, right? Yes.
Yes, exactly. I think she talked about that. She talked about the when you was talking about your grandmother making the decision of not having a child with a black man, because mixing, maybe the lighter the child is, the more favor the child gets to have, and the more you can climb the echelon in the society because you are light skinned. Of course, they did that, and I also realized that they use that same the rules of divide and conquer to destabilize the Haitian Revolution, because they were using the light skin. Let's say Negroes, like, it's interesting what to employ to make them feel better, to make them feel special. That hey, you are lighter, you're better than that person that is darker. So they use that theory. So I was watching, and I was like, then she started explaining how interesting it is. She was telling black folks that don't worry about this mixed marriage. She said, don't worry, because when you mix one white person with another black, they don't give birth to a white child, they give birth to a colored child. So what she is saying basically is that if all Europeans were agreed to marry Africans, that means that in the next 2 to 3 generations, there won't be any single pure white person.
Sure.
Everyone will be mixed, every person will be colored.
Sure.
This means the total extinction, total annihilation of the entire white race. So yeah, you want to say something?
No, but as I said, this is why you find Europeans always worried about we can't marry these people. No, I personally, I don't trust a lot of mixed marriages, because when you read certain histories, you realize that the child of a mixed, especially if it's a white father, and he lives in a patriarchal society. I think in the book, The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, he speaks about this. He speaks about how mixed children were used against Black Egypt, right? He speaks about how, you know, a child, because when warriors come in and conquer, they don't come with their wives. They come by themselves. And when they stay, they get local women. And these people were extremely patriarchal, the Asians and the European. And when the son of that joining comes, he goes more towards his father because his father is in power. His father is not African. And his son might be lighter. So he wants to take up the position of his father. And he will marry back into his father's race because his father is in power. So this is always the issue, you know? And so for me, I always worry about that. Because I think she is correct. When a black person and a white person gets children, the white goes. Because that child, especially if that child is raised amongst other African people, more than likely they'll get a child with another African.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because I think the only element I'm more skeptical about is white ladies marrying black guys. They only do that because of the financial benefit that comes with it. If they see that you're a celebrity, they see that they have material gain, something they can gain from you. So that is the big problem, because I feel if you look at the cases, mostly when they get married to you, they try to milk every dime out of your pocket to take it back into the white community. That's what they do. So I was like, okay, well, if you're rich and you have the resources, why not invest it back into your own community? Marry a black woman that you share the wealth with her. But this one, she's not actually interested in the love. She wants to take your money back into their hand. You know,
sure.
In that aspect, yes, we can call it. We can say yes, of course, we can raise questions about that. But we don't have any fear, like you said. We don't have fear of hunger, of starvation. The food is available in our land, and we don't have fear of any extinction. We're not afraid that if some group of people come and marry black people, we're gonna get extinct. We don't have that fear, and that is why we're so comfortable. We're not struggling to survive.
Sure.
We're living. That's what black people do.
Sure.
They are living, but there are people that are constantly
scheming,
asking. They're scheming for their survival. They are threatened by the world. They're threatened by the environment. They're threatened by the population. Their land is not fertile for them to produce food. I was saying something. I said, right, I was still talking to my friend. I said, if an accident happened now, they say a comet just fall from the sky, boom, and then scatter the earth and the human population, poof, everything is dead. In the next world to come, African land will still be fertile because almost all the land here in Europe are being tiled up. They plant artificial grasses. They plant their community in such a way that it's not productive. Everything is just so artificial.
Sure.
So I was saying that. So I think, yeah, that aspect, that phenomena of our celebrities, you see them with one little white woman beside them because you don't know. The moment you start making the money, you won't know where they're coming from. Boom, you just hear from the angle. I saw a video that I just smiled at this Joshua, this British, I don't know, Nigerian British athlete. The boxer, Joshua, I've forgotten his full name. Anthony Joshua, exactly. So he was standing, and so some kind of little white lady was just like, you could see her body language. She wanted the attention. She was communicating to him, and then she just slipped her number into his hand. I was like, okay, let's see how you're gonna go with it, So the moment you start making the cool cash, they will come after you, not because they love you, not because you're handsome, not because of anything. Some of them come after you for sex, but most cases you see black celebrities are going after them, and them pushing themselves. They will position themselves as a strategy. Look at this African footballer that died recently because he got married to a white woman, and then she brought paper, asked him to just sign, just sign.
I saw that, and I was like, this can't be true.
He kept signing. Yeah, he kept. I'm not even sure if it was a suicide, his death. I think it was something planned because they obviously see that he's depressed. Probably somebody planned it, and he's gone. She can have full control of the money,
of everything.
of everything. So when I saw the whole situation, I was like, this is it is a very sad situation. So we're not afraid of survival. We're not afraid of hunger, nothing at all. But we have to wake up. But we don't have any reason to do that. That is the problem. I was asking myself, I said, how can I get my people, Africans, to start seeing that the world is against us? The danger, we are so relaxed, we don't even worry about it. So I don't know how we can do that. Maybe should we start raising the fear of them in their mind? Hey, wake up! The Europeans are, because this very same Bill Gates, there was a conference he gave. Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, was seated just beside him. He says something that there's going to be a next terrorist attack. That he said the next terrorist attack won't be gun or bomb or bullet or anything. He says it's going to be through biochemicals. That maybe a terrorist will lay his hand on some kind of virus like Ebola and probably just put one in France, put one in the US, put one in Africa, so that these European nations are already planning. They're planning for emergency. They're setting up quarantines. They're planning. They're training their militaries to prepare for a day like that with masses. They make huge, massive provision, and their government are secretly investing and preparing for that day to come. But when I look around, the only continent that are not even prepared for that are Africans.
Sure.
We are not even prepared. We don't even, we are not proactive.
Sure.
We are reactive. We're waiting for the situation before we start running helter-skelter to look for solution, or probably start training our soldiers when it's already too late and the thing is eating up. But then I said to myself, don't worry. They think they are safe in their continent. They are not going to be safe. Once it hits Africa, before they notice it will reach them, and then that will be the end of it for humanity, because they cannot risk it. I'm telling you, all those KKK members that are in the US, if one of them can lay hand on any virus, the way they hate black people, they wouldn't hesitate to use it. Sure. I don't know what's holding them back. So we're waiting to see what will happen. You know? So black people are so relaxed. We're just living, we're not surviving. We are not afraid of any extermination. We are not afraid of nothing at all. We're just there. So how can we get them to see this thing? How can we get them to know that the world is against us? How can we start to love each other? How can we start to unite? How can we start to build our economy? We were talking the last time, you were telling me about economic alliance between Africa and the Caribbean countries, which is very, very important. Even though we don't have healthy political relationship, but we need that economic market. Africa needs to open for the Caribbean market, where you can sell your product, your exotic product in Africa, where we can buy, exchange goods. That's the only way. Because, the dignity of the black man lies in Africa.
Sure.
Because if Africa is not developed, no any black man anywhere will ever be respected.
Sure.
Whether in US, whether in Asia, whether in Europe, just watch. The very day that Africa will develop, Africa will start taking over the world, that's when the dignity of black men will start coming. So, but the black people around, they don't understand it. They think, oh, we're in the US, we're safe. Oh, we're in the Caribbean, we're safe. Oh, we're not Africans. Most people, they don't know that their dignity, their respect actually lies in Africa. If you live for 10 years in Europe, nobody will consider you as a European, so long as you have a lot of melanin in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very stressful thing to see. So I don't really understand, why do you think we have the same problem in Africa, the same problem in US, the same problem in the Caribbean, black people everywhere? We have the same economic problem. We don't have control of our market. We don't have control of our money, the money that comes in, the money that goes out. Politically, we are not united. Spiritually, we are divided. Some people are calling themselves Muslims, some people are calling themselves Israelites, some people are calling themselves Hebrews. I don't know, they give the same funny names. Some people are Nation of Islam, very, very, very funny names, So there's this way we are subdivided in different categories. That unity is not there, both in Africa, both everywhere. You don't see this image that. Why do you think it's the same problem? Black man face the same problem everywhere. Why?
I think especially in the Caribbean, we've had multiple opportunities where we could have united all these small islands into one political entity. Now we have a problem in the Caribbean because our people still think of themselves as Jamaican, Haitian, Trinidadian, Barbadian. We don't realize that the only difference for the African people, the only difference between us is where the boat stopped. We all got on the boat the same place. The boats made different stops. That's all. So you find these little islands keep having these nonsense rivalries between each other. Oh, I don't want to be with these people because they're smaller, they're smaller island, they're this, they're that. Sometimes we speak about other, like these other islands as if these people are aliens, right? We don't realize that there's a specific reason why outside forces would prefer to keep us. For instance, my island, my country is an island of a 68 square mile island and a 36 square mile island, right? Together, right? You know, we're not even what, 150 miles. We're not even that, maybe, whatever. So it's like when we look at other countries, other islands, we look at them and we sort of, oh, those people down there, whatever, whatever. Someone in Guadeloupe, they speak French. We don't consider them part of us. We don't consider them the same people, right? Those people coming from, look at, you know, at even people on Dominican Republic and Haiti. The same island, but hate each other. You understand? Black people, however, one speaks Spanish, one speaks French.
Yeah.
These are remnants of white supremacy and white colonialism. We see ourselves as different. The North American, African, you know, the ones who are not conscious-minded, sees the ones from the Caribbean as something different, right? The African on the continent, the ones who are not conscious, sees the one over here, you're not an African. I've been told that before. Oh, you're not an African. You're from Caribbean. I was like, how do you think we got here? You know, and our governments have also done a good job of keeping us in ignorance.
Yep.
The Indian over here is descended from the Indian in India. They still know where they come from in India.
Yes.
They have family in India. If they're in business here, selling fabric or whatever, their supplier is some uncle in India.
Exactly. That's
right.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. However, us Africans in the Caribbean, our supplier is the guy, he is the Indian here, whose supplier is his uncle in India. We don't have any link. No, we probably will not have familiar links anymore in Africa. That's okay. But because of our shared history, we could still create economic links, right? I don't have to be your direct cousin, but I am your family because I am an African just like you. Yes. One of the issues is that also it's a religious issue. In Haiti and Dominican Republic, they don't like each other because the Haitians, well, a lot of them don't follow Christianity. And if they follow Christianity, it's just on the front. When they go home, they have their shrines and whatever, whatever.
Really?
Right?
That's interesting.
When they go home, that, you know, in Haiti, these people are about African culture. Vodun,
yes.
They might go to church just to do a front, hey, I'm in church or whatever. Even Christian priests know these people have shrines at home.
That's like like Yorubas in Nigeria, because they do similar things. They are both Muslim, they are Christians, they will do in one single family. You find a group of people that are Christians, that the others are Muslims. They will both go to church. When it's time to go to the mosque, they will all go to the mosque. When it's time to go to the shrine, they will all gather and go to the shrine. It's really interesting. Go
to the shrine, right? So we have issues like that blocking us. Oh, I speak English, but you speak French. Yeah, we're Africans. The reason why you speak French is because your slave master spoke French, right?
Yes.
You speak Igbo because you never left the continent. I can't speak Igbo because I don't remember my language. So we have all these things blocking us. However, that doesn't stop anybody from doing business.
That's true.
Okay? And African, especially Western Central African countries, have a willing market in the Caribbean, South and Central America, right? With Africans all over. it is about time, especially people over here, start relearning their culture. Like this country has cultural exchanges with Taiwan. I don't care nothing about Taiwan. I mean, we have good diplomatic relations and we have good exchanges with technology and all of that. But in terms of culture, why would I want to learn Taiwanese culture?
Do you know what sells? Currently now, the reason why I feel economic alliance will be very important, because I noticed something. Our music, we understand each other through our music. You see, Nigerian music, they have a very huge industry, music industry. It sells all over the Caribbean, in short, all over the African continent. And then the movies, they're not very top quality, but I was surprised to find out that the people from the Caribbean are so in love. They could relate whenever they're watching.
They love a Nollywood movie.
Can you imagine? They could relate. So I said, well, if they can relate with the stories, they can relate with the people, they are seeing their type of people on the screen. Why not open the market? If the movies, the entertainment industry making such a huge breakthrough, why not take it to other stuff, the material stuff, like some product and all those things? That we can also explore that too.
Of course. Yeah. It's like, remember I told you I found it strange when you use the word Momo. And I said, what does Momo mean? And you said it's a stupid person. Somebody's an idiot. We use the same word.
You see.
Right? So it's like, for us, the shadows of Africa is still there. It's still there, right? But we just have to get a real link. I think the people who come here from Nigeria or Ghana, coming for school, they do a disservice to their countries because they don't seek to really push that agenda. They come here and the most I see them do here, they try to invite me to church. I don't want to go to church, okay? I don't want to go to church. I want to learn about true culture in Nigeria.
Yeah,
that's what I want. They invite me to church. Come to church, my brother. It's like, I have enough churches here. Thank you.
The British brought the religion to us, and then a Nigerian went to the UK and was taking Christianity to them. They brought this religion to you. You are now taking it back to preach it to them. What's wrong with you? Are you okay? The entirety of this religious stuff. I was very fascinated when I came to Paris, and I discovered that they have a special museum set up for African art, and people come to pay money to watch them. And then I say, what is stopping Africans from? They told us that those things were fetish. We are fetished. That we should throw them away. That we should burn them. That Christianity is the true way of life. Okay, we did it. But what else? We burned them. They packed them, brought it back to their country, to their king to share as gift.
Exactly.
They packed them up. They inspire their art. It inspire their music and a lot of things. Their dance and everything. But what are we doing about it?
Nothing. As you say, again, white supremacy does this to our people. They come and they tell you what you have is trash, that is evil, but secretly they're bagging it up.
Yeah.
Take it back, take it back, take it back. This is wonderful. But telling you, no, don't worry with that. That is evil, that is primitive. And you thinking that, you're not realizing that you've been living your culture for 100,000 years. Nothing's wrong with you. You've been fine. And somebody's telling you your stuff is now all of a sudden not good enough. Why? But you go back to this. You have to go to Europe to see your own culture.
Yes.
Foolishness. But it's no different here. I have a struggle every day teaching our people. You cannot destroy things that our ancestors built. Yes, they were enslaved, but those people worked hard. They left remnants. Like you could be walking along a railroad track to a sugar estate, and you'll find remnants of clay pipes, of pottery. These things were owned by our people.
Yes.
Real people, right? And they were owned by them. And our people just don't see the use in that. We don't go to our museum, but when people come on cruise ships, they love our museum, right? Europeans, and they love to see our culture, and they love to see, what happened to us over here and how we survived and again thrived. Our people went through very hard times here. And you have a situation here where our young people, they buy into the American sort of education that they get on TV, and they ignore what is here for us, right? And I blame a lot of the time parents, which is why I'm kind of glad I sort of got historical awakening, because I have two sons myself. But I am glad I have some knowledge to impart to them, because this is how culture was also imposed for us on the continent. People told stories, people related history, through everyday things. I remember speaking to a sister. She's from, well, if she's listening now, I can't say Nigeria. She would tell me she's from Biafra. So I'm saying the sister is from Biafra. I'm not looking no problems with this lady. So she's from Biafra. And she's telling me, like, I'm explaining things to her, to the sister, and she has no idea what I'm talking about. No, it's like, what you talking about? I'm like, you don't know, this is not true? Because when I speak to continental Africans, I like to ask them about things I've read. Is this true? Is that not so? And they don't know nothing. Nothing. But the problem is the European wrote down everything that they could get. In Africa, the writing of history was not something apparently that they did much. It was not something that you wrote down in a book and say here. It was something that was recited to you by family members. It was, people that was in your head, right? It's only recently they started putting these things on paper, right? But these things were recited to you through stories, through song, you know what I mean? Through ceremony. So you knew your history just organically. It was something that you were involved in since you were a child. No, that has stopped because your church told you this is evil. So someone like me, a person in diaspora, I can't learn from another young African here in med school. They wouldn't have an idea what I'm talking about. No idea. And that's sad.
Yeah, it's sad. That gives me a lot of pain, because I discovered just recently that the African system of education is very, 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 very poor, in the sense that we, even after the colonial system, we physically, of course, the colonialists are no longer in Africa, but the system they created is still functioning.
Exactly.
The government, both the education system, the social system they set up, the economic system they set up, still there. And I discovered that the only time these things you make a progress is when you try to reinvent your system. That's what the Chinese did. The Westerners are so confused right now. They don't understand what's going on with China. They are so confused. They're trying to analyze the miracle. They're trying to analyze how is it possible that China could be so corrupt and yet progress? Because normally a country that thrives in corruption doesn't progress. But so China now becomes a puzzle to them. They don't try to, for instance, let's say during their revolution that they were doing, they tried to set China's against each other. Mao Zedong was leading the revolution. They raised up somebody behind that could counter the revolution. What they led to the creation of Taiwan today. Okay, they call up this individual and say, hey, come on, take ammunition, come fight your people, come and fight your people. We're going to give you the support. You're going to overthrow Mao Zedong and take over this. The person came in, both of the ammunition, everything, the weapons they gave him, fell into the Chinese hand, and that was how the bloodshed, what the people only died of starvation. He ran after everything just leaked out. But the Chinese man will not raise arm against his brother today, but the Africans will raise hands. We have killed most of our heroes. I'm talking about these people. I'm talking about Thomas Sankara. I'm talking about Patrice Lumumba. Most of these great Africans, even Kwame Nkrumah, one of the movement of Pan-African movement, he was inspired by Marcus Garvey. He set up this movement, but he was being overthrown.
Sure.
So I just see most of these things, and it gives me a lot of pain. Then we Africans, we don't actually see that we have to do something. really have to unite. It's really, really sad. So in your own case now, do you think, is there hope for Africa? Are you optimistic about the future of Africa?
Most definitely. I think I'm heartened because I see young people like you on Facebook. There's a few other brothers from let me again say Biafra.
Mm.
I'm not looking for trouble. And Nigeria, Biafra, whatever. I'm not gonna get involved in that.
Mm.
But I have brothers from Ghana, brothers from Togo, these places, right?
Mm.
I've met people on social media who are embracing this. There's a gentleman, and we spoke about him on our preliminary chat, Chekante Diab. And I remember listening to an interview by Dr. Leonard Jeffries. And they knew Diab because they're both the same. Well, he was younger than Diab.
Mm.
And he said Diab told him the re-education of the African is going to come from west to east. The descendants of the ones who were taken are going to have to re-educate the ones on the continent, because the ones on the continent, they you have to be outside and look back in to actually see what's happening. When you're actually there, you're just going about life and it doesn't matter to you. But when you're living away from the continent and you could see
Yes.
what's happening, you understand. So that's why Kwame Nkrumah got his education in terms of Pan-Africanism from Americans, from Marcus Garvey and these people. That's why people like Kwame Ture, who was from Trinidad originally in the Caribbean, right? He was from Trinidad. He went to America. He was Stokely Carmichael at first, changed his name to Kwame Ture, and he moved to Ghana, right? These people influenced these early Pan-Africanists in Africa. There was a lot of hope, right? However, you see like how we like Black Panther? Black Panther also shows that at some point, Africans will have to decide to segregate themselves from the world in certain ways. You have to decide that your culture is good enough and you need to modernize your culture, right, in your way. African culture, every time you hear a person against African culture, especially African spiritual system, they say, oh, it's old, it's this, it's that. See, all cultures are old. They say the Bible was written at the dawn of time. That's a very old book. That's what they say. However, it has been updated, it's been tweaked and all of that to function in modern time, even though it really hasn't. But you can function in modern time with your own culture. You don't have to leave your culture behind, but you have to update the ways you do things. Because even Christian countries deal with different laws. They separate religion from law, right? For some reason, I find our people don't know how to separate the two. We think that you have to live by the Bible. Like John Henry Clark said in his book, Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust, he said, you will never find a bigger Christian than an African. You will never find a more devout Muslim than an African. And it's true. We go into these religions as Puritans.
Exactly.
And we throw away everything that we are, right? What ends up happening is that we end up retarding our own growth and helping the originators of those religions. So we have helped the European, we have helped the Arab, and now we're helping the Chinese, right? So we will have to learn that we're going to have to segregate ourselves in certain ways. Africa is the only continent that can function as its own planet. But it will cause issues because Europeans have been in Africa for thousands of years. They don't plan to leave. You don't have to leave, but you cannot control the resources anymore. African young people have to also understand you cannot tolerate corrupt leaders anymore. You can't play these games, right? Because these people are agents put there by European powers. So I am, yes, very, very optimistic because I've seen things like the thought process. And once you start changing your thought process, anything could happen. Anything could happen.
It's not going to be easy because the issue is this. is a question of survival. The Europeans have been holding into the power for a very long time now. They fear anything. They fear a lot. They know that the power is shifting,
Sure.
and which is the law of nature. Not long ago, some centuries back, we see that it was Great Britain that was dominating. We had tentacles all over, dominating India, Africa, big empire. Gradually, the power transitioned to the United States. And now you're seeing a huge shift from the US to China. And China is taking over, which is something that is bound to happen. It's something that happens with every great civilization. It happens even with the Egyptian civilization that was once great is no more there. The Roman civilization is no more there. The Greco-Roman civilization, they are no more there. The Maya civilization, they're all gone. So you see this dynamism that happens with all the civilization. But this time around, you have a great opposition of group of people that are so worried about your survival. They want to survive by any means at all. So I'm thinking of the price that will be paid. I'm thinking of the resources that will be put into place, because I see that in China we have 1 billion people. In India we have 1 billion people. In Africa we have 1.3 I think billion population, which is but you can take China, you can take India, you can take the continent of Europe and put it right inside Africa, remove Russia. They will all fit in inside. We have the land mass that can carry the population of our people. But the funniest thing is that if you look at the map today, if you take a map, a bookmark, like a map like this to look at, you will see that they reduce the size of Africa, of Africa map. Meanwhile, it is the biggest.
Sure.
It is the biggest.
Sure.
But they reduce the size, they enlarge the American, they enlarge Europe, they enlarge China.
All these things are tricks.
You see, so when you're watching them in the school, visually, they are modifying your thought process. Telling you that you're small, telling you that you're not big. So it's really a system that is right there into. They are not willing to give it up. They want to make sure that they hold on to the power. They want to control the resources because they have to survive. Because honestly, I see damnation that is coming upon them, which is certainly. Right now, there's a cultural decadence in Europe currently, with Islam taking over gradually. Their cultural orientation is eroding slowly, because the next generation, their birth rate is dropping. It's dropping. The educational system, nobody to carry on with the ideas that you have in place. So they're not going to give up this power easily to Africans. And what will it take to educate the Africans is something we don't think we yet to understand. I'm not pessimistic about the future of Africa. I think that with time, Africa will wake up eventually. I'm just trying to be realistic about the price that we're going to pay for all the development that will come in, and a lot of things, and what will be the consequences. Where will Europe be? Where will the white man be? Where will the Westerners be? Because it has to be at their expense, because they don't have any resources, because the entire world is depending on Africa to survive. Our very technology today, basically every resource, every element is sourced out in Africa. I'm talking to you right now. Every smartphone you're using, 80% of the coltan beans is sourced from Congo and some of the Central Africa. So it's really fascinating to see that most of these minerals, most of the elements are coming from these places. And then how is the world willing to give up this privilege?
Of course not. They've been there. I'm telling you, we spoke about this just now. Africans don't have to survive. If the governments in Africa were actually doing what they were supposed to do, Africans would never be migrants. To go where?
That's true.
You understand? There's nothing you need nowhere else. Nothing. But we have been told that all we can do is produce raw materials. Right? Because this is a remnant of the transatlantic slave trade. Right? They take the human resource from Africa, they bring them over here to the West. We work on the sugar plantation over here. We produce the sugar plantations, tobacco plantations, cotton plantations, indigo, whatever, right? And we produce the raw materials to send to Europe to be
Processed.
Processed, and those things are then dispersed across the world. But raw materials also used to come from Africa. So all they want is, they have now convinced us, black and brown people, that all we can do is produce raw materials. There's no money in raw materials. The money is in the finished product. I was surprised to know that, is it Ghana? Ghana might be one of the largest producer of cocoa. Is it Ghana or Nigeria?
Not Ghana, it's Cote d'Ivoire.
Cote d'Ivoire, right? And these people make almost nothing from cocoa. But that cocoa product, when refined, makes whoever millions. Why the hell are we still just producing the raw product?
Do you know why?
Why?
Do you know why? I saw a hypocritical act that they did, the European Union. They wanted to sign a economic agreement with Africa, with some of the African countries, the African Union and so. You know what they said? So they set up a tariff. If you're bringing orange fruit in Europe, free, tax-free. But if you're bringing orange juice, already processed orange juice, they're going to fine you, they're going to tax you in such that there won't be any profit at the end of the day. So it's okay to bring orange juice to Europe, process them, and it's okay to bring orange fruit from Africa to Europe, you process them, and then you sell the juice back to Africa that are being packaged in fine containers, so that you cannot bring oranges. So they put some of those laws, first of all, to discourage companies from establishing themselves in Africa. Because as a company, if you start your company, your industries in Africa, anything that is coming there, they're going to charge you huge amount of money that it will discourage. So all companies, it's not as if they are not willing to invest. There's a workforce, there's a huge workforce in Africa.
But it's actually the white supremacist setup of the world.
Yep.
Right? Anything to keep Africans just producing the raw product. No profits for you, just give me the raw product and I will sell it back to you. Right? This is also their religion.
Yeah.
The product came from Africa originally. They took it back, remixed it, washed it up a little bit, lightened up Jesus, brought him back to Africa. Right?
Exactly. The same thing with religion.
Same thing.
Same thing.
This is how they see the world. They see us as just producers. African people have been the engines of growth in the world forever, in multiple ways. From the dawn of time, we seeded the world, right? No nation could rise unless the African had left. If the African had never left Africa, if those people didn't just say, you know what, let's take a walk. If they never left Africa, there would be no people in Europe, right? So then, we've been always being the engines of growth. Then we went into transatlantic slavery, as we just talked about. And again, the slave became the engine of growth in Europe, because before that time, countries in Europe were struggling. England went through its industrial revolution after they started taking Africa. Same with the French, same with the Belgians.
Yes.
Belgium went through its big growth when Leopold was killing Africans, cutting off their hands in the Congo.
That's true.
That is how they got their wealth.
That's true.
So Europe itself been doing this for a long time. Their whole survival is based on Africa.
That's true.
It's based on Africa. And it's really sad that, I would say our continent, our governments are not teaching. You see these African people, brilliant young men and women, just leaving. But they're not, it's fine to leave, but you don't even look back, right? And say, look, one day I want to go back and do something back home. Like I see you and you talk, intelligent young man, but you always look back and say, I have certain plans and this is what I want to institute. These people don't look back.
They don't.
So when they go to the States or whatever, or they come here, they're very brilliant, so they make a lot of money, but they never go back.
Nope.
Never.
Is
I have a problem with that.
It's the
right?
education, yeah.
So this is where you'll find a young African person would tell me or somebody like me over here, oh, you're not African, because really they don't know. They have no idea. It's when you start explaining to them about this and they say, I didn't know. I say, how could you not know this? How could you not know? But then that's not their fault. The parents didn't tell them, the grandparents didn't tell them, the schools didn't teach them,
No.
right? They don't know that they might have distant family here.
Yes.
They don't know.
Mhm.
I might have distant family on the continent. I don't know.
Possibly. It's like that. That was the time I got so emotional, and I started writing a poem. Like I was saying that this we might be related. You were hearing, like it was about my brother coming back from the US. I said, the vision just came into my mind. Just make up a movie of like a rebirth of a nation until I heard about that came up. So I was like, one day, probably some kind of a child would just be dreaming and just flashing back to Africa, and then wake up and the movement would just start. And these people would just, take the boat, what Marcus Garvey suggested, take the boat, just feel the people, roam to Africa, they're landing on the shore, and they'll be singing and dancing, welcoming them back into the country. But the way I see it right now, there had never been any reform in the African education system. So I'm not sure. Nobody, they won't know anything. You see this Biafran issue, so there's a lot of debate surrounding it. Most of them are claiming that they are Jews and they want to practice Judaism. You see them with some kind of a veil. And they just doing. I just look at them. I say from frying pan. In Nigeria, we say from frying pan to fire. From the frying pan that you have
Yeah.
to, to the main fire. When I saw that situation, I just feel, and they're so passionate about it because they have something to live for. It's Africa, it's Biafra, it's our dream. They want to have it. They think like Biafra will be an El Dorado once they can be able to lay their hand on it. But they don't know that the problem is bigger than that. The problem is the mentality that needs to be solved, first of all. You can't go away with bigotry, you can't go away with ethnocentrism, you can't go away with religious foolishness, and so many cultural decadence and things. You can start up a utopian society. It's impossible to do that. You can just dream, it's just a fantasy. It can just go on like that. So I feel really, really bad for the Biafrans. So I just look at it. So and the educational system is not doing anything to solve some of this problem that we have back in the country. I don't see how African can move out except for individuals like us who struggle on our own to learn things, to learn and to unlearn some of the things we were taught. If not, it's going to be a very, really, really big time struggle. So
Are you seeing the chat room on YouTube?
Oh, there's a chat on YouTube right now.
Yeah, if you go to the YouTube page that's playing live.
Oh, are there comments?
There's a guy. Well, there's a person commenting. I don't know if it's
What's the name?
Achia Abdullah.
Aisha. That's the name. Aisha. Yeah.
Right. So they were asking a question, but anyway.
That's okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, Aisha.
But if you click the link, I'll try sending the link to the chat room so you could listen live to it. Well, you can watch it live. Just mute the speaker.
Yeah, I can download it. Yeah. So So what do you think about the Nation of Islam? Is another movement you're doing right now in the US?
Well, the Nation of Islam, for me, of course, I have challenges because it's Muslim. But however, the Nation of Islam came around when Black people needed help. We needed a sense of pride. Mm-hmm. We needed something to galvanize us together. And they were largely successful. They have a huge following. I respect any organization, Black organization, that gives purpose, that gives structure, that gives pride. I respect that. I could debate you on doctrine all day, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, I have issues with the fact that they keep up the nonsense belief that you have to learn Arabic.
Yeah.
Why the hell would I have to learn Arabic? I'm not Arab, right? Anyway, yes, I have issues with those things, but I respect any nation that preaches love for your black skin, love for the black woman, love for the black family. I respect that. And I am not going to throw throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yes, I have issues with the doctrine, but I respect overall what they're trying to do. I get it.
I see they're doing a lot of things. They're doing some big time work. They have schools, they have institutes set up in place. They're trying to educate, but it's a beautiful package they're providing. Actually, the package is beautiful, but it's rotten inside. It's rotten inside because here you are, somebody's giving another alternative. They're telling you that Islam is actually the origin. What do you know about Islam? This religion came in 500 years, like Islam is, let's say, 1,500 years old. Christianity is 2,000 years old. I mean, when I talk about Islam being 1,500 years old, it means the day that the Quran was written, the day that Muhammad came up with the concept of Islam, came up with a separate religion to try to explain. So it's no different. It's not different from Christianity. It's not different from Judaism. Why can't you just see it that, as Africans, we have our, so this con artist, I'm sorry for employing such word, Muhammad, Elijah, they call him. The funniest part, the most interesting part about the name, this Elijah, the word Elijah actually means Ali in Arabic language. So he gave his name to it. The word Elijah means Ali in Arabic language. Yes. So this Muhammad Ali, the boxer, that is called Muhammad Ali, actually took his name. It was Muhammad Elijah that gave him his name. Yes.
Yeah, Elijah, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Elijah Muhammad. So the mixture, when I watch Minister Louis Farrakhan, the way he preaches, the way he talks about Bible, the way, like some kind of Pentecostal charismatic, all these the apostles and all this things, it's really, really fascinating to see the charisma that he employed to preach. But I don't think, I like it that they are bringing that pride back to our people, but I like it better when James Baldwin challenged their system, their teachings, and most of the things that they are doing. So I don't know what to think about them.
Well,
they do their best.
As I said,
I'll give them 30%.
Well, that depends. That depends on what you're looking for, right?
Economically, they're doing just fine.
That's what I mean. But
psychologically, spiritually, I think it's we have a lot of work to do on that.
Okay. Magaji, just give me 1 minute. I'm going to just run here and open a door. I'll be right back, okay? Don't log off. I'll be right back. 1 second.
Okay. Are you still watching, Aisha?
Peace, brother. Peace. Back.
Oh, all right. Okay.
There we are. Yeah. So, no. Look, man. I respect organizations that are all about Black anything, Black excellence, Black anything. I mean, they have businesses, they have schools, they have all of this, and this is what I envision for African people. I get it that the schools are Muslim-based, Islamic-based, right? I get it. However, I see something like that can be built for African people who are interested in their own culture.
Yes.
They prove that, yes, I can be Islamic, but I don't have to deny myself economic gain. I don't have to deny myself, power in the world. And for some reason, our people don't believe that we deserve power. Like when I tell people, I'm not interested in nothing other than power. African people have been out of power for a long time.
Yes.
You understand? So I am interested in power. I don't want to hear all this noise about, we need to, love this and love that.
What's the power? What do you mean when you say power? What do you mean?
Power meaning economic power. When people think about African countries, they think about countries that get aid. They think about Africans as people who always want to be migrants and refugees. Right?
What do you mean by economic power?
Economic power in terms of, just as what we were talking about, I don't need to send my stuff out to you as raw goods to be refined or whatever. I can do everything here and sell it to you. You have to respect.
So you're talking about self-sufficiency.
Self-sufficiency. I want power. I want, when you see an African, you respect me. When the average African sees a European, they respect that. There must be something special. Must be some big shot somewhere. Like I see, even when they come here, you see sometimes some people rolling over like good dogs. You know what I mean? Rub my belly. Because in our head, that white face is something special, right?
Yes.
That French accent, that French language, that Chinese language, that's something special. Mm-hmm. But if I see my own brother from Africa, I think he's up to something.
Yeah. The same thing, it's a very funny scenario because this same thing happened in South Africa. So in a situation where when you have white tourists go to the country for tourism, they are so like, wow, like just welcome them in. But the moment somebody from whatever African countries, you come in, they start seeing you with suspicion, and you be wondering like, are you really okay? You're in your own home, you're in your own land. You see, Nigerians are very buoyant people. They are buoyant, they are flamboyant people.
Sure.
They are extravagant people. They love to show off when they reach. So I see most Nigerians, they like to go marry, do their wedding in South Africa. And they like to show off their wealth and all those things. So the people there, they don't understand the life, but they don't understand how the society is built up. If you're a Nigerian, if you're born in Nigeria, you understand what I'm saying, because you're pushed to succeed. In Nigeria, failure is not an option for you. Especially if you're a man, they will tell you, they idolize people that are successful. They go on, your parents are pushing you to go to school. But the wrong thing is that they don't actually know that you don't make it in school. What you want is not education. What you want is knowledge. It's not school certificate, it's not school education, but what you want is knowledge. These two things, they are two different things that Africans are yet to differentiate. Having knowledge of the world, like most of the things I've learned about the world, like politics, science, and everything, no one taught me all those things in the school. No one will teach you how to produce bottled water in the school. No one. That's knowledge. So you just sit down and look at your community and see that the people have a need of something, and then you venture into it and make sure that you provide it, you make it available for them. Nobody will teach you how to package chips in a package for people to eat. They don't teach you those things in the school. Nobody will teach you fashion and design in the school system. This has the basic, the elementary things that the society need are not taught in the school. That's the point I don't get.
Right.
I don't get it.
Right.
The basic things that the community needs to survive are not taught in the school. Once you go to the school, they just give you theories, they just teach you funny stuff, some kind of funny history, some funny literatures. You will never find the basic teachings, basic education for the survival of the community. Why don't they teach you how to produce bottled water? You have to make up those ideas yourself. Why don't they teach you, So they will just give you funny theories. So Africans don't realize that it's very important. Africans don't know the difference yet. An African, somebody who is into tailoring, they can sew clothes in Africa. They don't know that you can actually, commercialize this, bring out a system like H&M, make it in a very large scale and attract your people to buy them.
But I'm hoping a movie like Black Panther, as we spoke about,
yes,
would encourage Black people to see the African tailor,
Mm-hmm.
say, make me something like this,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Mm-hmm.
So
You know the funniest part? This Black Panther movie actually made something really funny in the US because most of the African designers that they went to this local fabric, the African fabric, they started selling. The lady was saying that her store, she has been sewing clothes, nobody here wasn't really interested, but just for the sake of that movie, now she's making huge amount of money because people started rushing. You see, so this thing we encourage that. That was why I was telling people that do not underestimate. People came up with ideas, they are criticizing this Black Panther stuff. I said, don't underestimate it. Never underestimate this movie. See, and I hope it will also inspire our people to make movies like that, movies that are culturally oriented.
yeah, I heard you you're very critical of Nollywood movies. Why?
Yes, I am critical about it because the only thing they promote is superstition and they promote religion. You know, they're helping. We're doing the propaganda ourselves. You watch the Hollywood movie, they give you a wife that is prayerful, blood of Jesus, blood of this, blood of that. So it's a very funny thing to see how they play these things. I just feel, and they have a very poor sound production. So I just hope that they will be inspired. And so I just discovered that they have very fine stories, fine mythology, myth that they could be able to commercialize. I see those myths that they are employing adults, they are employing people, some big adults, some to really come and do it. I see it if they put them in animation form, it will make a very fine good stuff for the children because it will be like a story, but they don't know how to do some of those things, which is very sad.
I was explaining to somebody the other day that
Mm.
if Africans ever have to really draw upon their own source material for movies,
Mm.
with even similar, because I believe in Nigeria, for instance,
Mhm.
you guys have enough millionaires there that could fund these movies.
Yes.
But
Yes.
if Africans ever drew upon their own source, like actual real things that happen in Africa,
Mhm.
you would have the most amazing movies. Like I named my youngest son after Sunjata. He was the founder of the Malayan Empire, right?
Wow. Wow.
And if you read his story, it
Mm.
reads like, I mean, it's part mythology, it's part real,
Yes.
right? But then Africans always spoke in allegory. They knew they were speaking in allegory, so they mixed a little bit of, magic and whatnot in with real history, because his history can be traced, actually traced,
Yes.
right? His battles can be traced, all of that can be traced. If you really had to make a movie about this man,
Mhm.
it would be an amazing movie.
It would be amazing movie.
You understand?
It will be.
It would be the most amazing things. When you speak about, but then maybe sometimes too in Africa, because so much people are still caught up on ethnic tensions.
Mhm.
For instance, you might not want to make a movie about the Fulani expansion in
Yes.
Nigeria.
Mhm.
You might not want to make that movie because people would be upset. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, you're right. And this
Right. You might
Fulani,
not.
this Fulani, they have a very fascinating culture. If you go to my Facebook page, you see that
Mhm.
they have pictures of them. They don't know. I see riches, I see wealth in their culture. They have a very fascinating style of dressing, this fascinating hairstyle. This thing you know, you can just, it's the wealth in the culture is just there. You can explore. The world is here to know things about Africa. You can sell, you can commercialize some of this cultural stuff to the world, and they'll be fascinated because it's something they don't know about. They don't
Right.
know anything about Africa. It's really interesting that our people have to wake up to realize that this is the only way we have to go. And with this Christianity and Islam, I don't know how we're going to do about that.
Right. But this is the
Yeah.
problem. We have issues in Africa in terms of telling
Mhm.
our own stories.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that Americans have to, like, I bought this book. It's very expensive. I bought this book,
Oh, African Kings. Ooh.
right?
Yes.
And it shows you
Mhm.
things in their own palaces and whatnot,
Mhm.
right? It's a very, very, very pretty book. This book was not even done by an African. It was done by a European, attempting to show Africans not as people who are lesser, but people who are great, right? He tells their stories going all the way back to, you know, what I'm saying? This is a very good book by Daniel Lane, a European. And I'm wondering, why is it that Europeans have to always tell African stories? Why?
It's it's really, really sad. It's sad. And we don't have facilities in place to do all those things. That's why some of us are planning project. We're trying to set up facilities in place to make sure that this stuff, our poems, because we have them in large numbers. I had never taken interest in most of these things, but I see the importance now to make sure. I was actually thinking recently of a project I wanted to develop. It was about Fulani village, and also thinking of building a city of Wakanda somewhere in Africa. This fictional city, you see the settings, the rainfall, the waterfall, the settings and everything to build actually a fictional city, bring it to life. What will it do? It will try. You tell some group of people in the US come to Africa to come and visit Wakanda for vacation, they will come. Build this city, set up crocodiles, set up animals around, elephant. Just make sure that those traditional dress that are there. You come in there, you find a very huge and large boutique. You can find souvenirs for African stuff that you can take back. Then you will never forget that experience.
Sure.
I thought of all these things. I say, build them using real African architectural style. That once you come, you see this marvelous waterfall. The entire setting will just like you feel the force of nature. This is what people are looking up to. Before you notice, maybe any European man would just decide to just do that. With Africans, that thought would never come to our mind.
Right. But my question is though, to you, how do you get this information? Because a lot of the people on social media, I remember one guy who was on a Gambian page and he said, too bad the people, the poor people won't get this because they're not on social media. I was like, well, you're getting the information, right? Why don't you carry it to them?
That has been my thought too. It has been my thought. Like a lot of people, they don't even have access to social media. And the easiest way to get them, I tell you, people in the village that they don't use Facebook, they watch movies.
Sure.
They watch movies.
Sure.
They will watch Wakanda. They will watch this thing.
Sure.
The easiest way to get information right into their house to educate their children is to movie production. Sure. They listen to songs. The easiest way to do something to promote message when you want people to get them in large quantity, because they feel entertained when they're watching. The image is captivating, and one thing with image, it gets stored into your mind. It has a very strong effect on people. So you watch them, you hear them at the same time. It's not like somebody's like saying, hey, if you put them in the book, some of them don't even know how to read. English is not their first language. They won't be interested in reading it. But first of all, if they're watching, even if the English is too big or the language being employed is not very, very cool for them, they will still understand with the images they're seeing. They will know that yes, this is what is being communicated to them. So
this is why. Let me show you something here. You said image is important, right?
Yes.
So let me show you something here. What do you see?
Oh. Oh.
Right? You understand?
It's really sad.
You just said image is important, right?
Yes.
So there you go. Image is important. That's what image does to you.
Oh, it's really sad.
That's what image does to you. It makes you see this white Jesus all the time.
Yes.
White Jesus is it.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And you bow to a picture of white Jesus, right?
And like when I talk to progressive African Christian today, they say, oh, the image of Jesus is not important. It is important.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
People are psychologically brainwashed to start seeing God as a white man. If they want to show you an angel, they show you angels as being white. Once they want to paint the devil, they paint him black with tail and some horns, to make this image, so scary, something really, how they do it. And that's how people see it now. Virgin Mary, they take it. But in reality, that's not the true representation of all these figures. If I thought they were
Sure.
born in the Middle East, they shouldn't look blonde, with blue eyes. It
Sure.
shouldn't be that case. So, yes.
Let me show you another picture. I'll show
Yes.
you one quickly. What do you see?
Where is this? What happened?
Wait, no, sorry. This is I think, in the Philippines. You
Black
see
Jesus?
the Black Jesus.
Yes.
Africa, other than Ethiopia, Africa is the only place where they will not portray Jesus as a black man.
Hmm.
Do you understand?
Yes.
They will not portray him as a black man.
It's really interesting to see. He had the tan though. Like he is now the skin is dark, but the hair refused to change, and the nose too. Oh, it's really, really interesting. The imagery is so strong. I see most cases where they try to portray Jesus as black, but the hair, they can't just do
No,
anything about the hair. They
the
just
hair.
can't do anything about it. They try to. The hair has to be somehow, give this image because this thing has been impregnated right into our mind.
Mhm.
So it's really, really pathetic and it's really sad. Thank you,
That's how
brother.
it goes, my brother.
Brother Greg, it's really, really interesting talking to you. And I hope people that will visit some of these messages, they'll get to read about it, share their opinion, share their thought about this. And all we
Well,
want,
let's do it again some other time.
yes, we're not asking you people to leave your religion, to leave Islam or Christianity. We're just asking you, we're just encouraging you to ask questions, to be curious, to try to understand. We're not trying to, many people see this religion as very important to them. So many people are afraid of leaving their religion. They are afraid because once you leave Christianity, what other moral standard can you hold to guide your life? They don't know anything more than that.
Right.
But some of us are very much happy. We are contented with what we know, what we understand about life, how we live our life. And that's how we live it. That's how we see it. We don't know any better than that, you see. So my brother, he is happy. I am happy. I became free. I think the day I became free, the day I started living was the day I abandoned religion. Because I took something, one of the biggest element that have been holding me down is fear. I was very superstitious and I was afraid of spiritual attacks and all those things. But I became very free because I no longer believe some of those things. I have peace of mind as I'm talking to you currently. I do not believe that somebody is scheming some kind of spiritual, jujitsu to try to bring my spirit down because I lost that fear already. One of the biggest factors that religion and superstition put into your mind is fear factor. So we're encouraging you to think, read history, read your books, read about African history. Sheikh Anta Diop, some of the authors we have been mentioned here. Somebody like Kwame Ture is a very interesting person to go and read about him too. He's one of the biggest Pan-African. In short, these are the true personality I respect. You see this Kwame Ture and James Baldwin. To me, they are one of the most important character because James Baldwin helped me to understand something. He helped me to understand not just, first of all, he point out, the weakness. He is encouraging black people to pity, not to hate. He's employing certain word to pity the white man, not to hate him. Because if you hate will not lead you to anywhere. So you pity him, you see him as somebody that is a victim to, he's a victim of his own self. Like the white man is a victim of his own invention, he's a victim of his own ideas, because this very idea they are bringing up is going to destroy both them and us. Because they have to constantly live, if you're scheming, like in the proverb in Nigeria, they said, if you're digging a hole, if you're using a tool to dig a hole for your enemy to fall inside, they say dig it a little bit shallow so that once you after digging it, you can be able to come out yourself. You see, so if you dig it too deep and you're not able to come out, you will remain in your own hole. The very hole that you dug, you will remain inside. So yes, so hold on, just to challenge your mind, go ahead and read history, read about religion. So what's your final word before we?
Not much, man. I mean, you were talking about being free from religion, what I tell African people is that what you had before Christianity came to the West Africa was not religion. Your people understood how to live within the bounds of nature. Your spiritual system was based on natural observations of life. Your deities were actually forces of nature. So what you have is not something evil. Don't let nobody tell you that what you had was evil. Currently, I'm trying to rediscover or go as far back as I can to find out where my people might have come from in West Africa. Who my people might have been. I mean, am I Efik, am I Ija, whoever, right? I need to find that out so I can specifically research their spiritual system, right? That's what I'm trying to do, because within African spiritual systems, you will also find your history, because they didn't separate spirituality from history. Your cultural system was your history. You know Yoruba because a Yoruba man does this. We spoke about, he's named this. He speaks a certain way. His culture is a certain way. That's how you know a Yoruba, right? You know a Igbo because he's named this. He speaks a certain way, and he has a certain culture.
Exactly.
So Africans can only be complete if they follow their own culture. Following your own culture does not preclude you from being modern. It is an absolute nonsense when Arabs and Europeans tell you you have to embrace their religion to be considered modern. It is foolishness. So I am, like, in a sense, we're happy with what we're doing. However, I am not here for war with your church or your pastor. I am warring against ignorance.
That's true.
Right? And I will continue to do so. And I want you people out there who might have listened to this live or going to listen to it replay. It's okay to be ignorant. It's okay to not know. It's not okay to know you don't know and don't care to know.
Yeah, that's a very smart one. Yes.
So
thank
that's
you.
it for me.
Thank you. You really summarized most of what we've talked about, and it's really, really interesting. So go ahead, just go on, research. Research. That's what we're trying to do. Go on. Yeah. So thank you. See you again next time. Just leave your comment. Leave what your opinion.
Right.
If you disagree, of course, you have every right to disagree. If you agree, that's okay. So we're making progress. You know what we're doing, Greg? We're keeping a record. This thing will be part of history.
Sure.
This thing might look as if it's nothing, but somebody will stumble upon this in YouTube one way or the other. And don't be surprised, I received messages on Facebook of people. You see those little meme I post on Facebook criticizing religion. I've had friends who had engaged in debate, heated debate with me about Christianity, and today they are atheists. Some of the one texted me and said, "Hey, thank you so much, Innocent. Like, you took certain fear out of my mind." That was when I understood the power of this social media. This is the only way we can put this information out for people to see. So don't be surprised tomorrow somebody will contact and say, "Hey, my life was changed for this." I started learning stuff when I met Dr. John Henry Clark. I started meeting his message, because he was able to document the idea he had in his mind and put them out there for the public to see. So we're discussing this topic, as banal as it may sound. For instance, the issue of naming, how he speaks about your culture, the issue of all this economic necessity for the alliance that we talk about is something that is important, that I know that people will come and see the need for all this. And so thank you so much for the time that you accorded for this
Anytime,
record. And we hope that we'll do more to help keep sharing the information, keep sharing the knowledge with our people. Yes, and thank you, Aisha, for being very active. I saw her comment. She has been leaving a lot of comments. She's actually from Niger. Is somebody that I know about. So yeah, so thank you so much. Yeah. All right. Okay.
All right, man. Peace.
Peace.